Fala, capitão! Fala, galera! Bem-vindos aqui, eu sou Nicolas Sessler, bem-vindos a mais um Gregário Tech. Temos um convidado muito especial, que a gente conheceu diretamente lá no Roller Cycling Show, em Londres, e um cara que conhece muito sobre tecnologia do treinamento. Ele criou um robô de treinamento. Então vamos pensar naquela tecnologia hoje está evoluindo e a gente já chega nesse âmbito onde as máquinas estão produzindo algo para nós e um robô, um algoritmo que é capaz de prescrever o treinamento, de analisar todo o teu histórico de treinamento e prescrever com uma série de inputs, né? Vamos pensar aí desde o teu GPS, do teu medidor de potência, da tua frequência cardíaca, do teu HRV, da tua qualidade do sono, com todos esses wearables que a gente consegue medir. Ele criou esse robô que consegue computar, ler num logaritmo todo o teu background de treinamento, todas essas variáveis, quais são os teus objetivos e prescrever o teu treinamento automaticamente. É louco isso, né? Então agora com vocês, Dan Wakerley, para falar sobre o Pillar App, que é esse aplicativo. Dan, I've done a quick, maybe too long intro in Portuguese here about who you are, about your ID, but nobody better than yourself here at Gregário Podcast to tell us a little bit.
Thanks for having me, and always love to talk about this stuff. Dan Wakerley is an amateur cyclist and endurance lover who also loves technology.
To start up then, I was mentioning and trying to explain a little bit what the Pillar app is, but I would like to know from yourself, what actually is the idea behind the Pillar app?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Pillar is a coach, it's a digital coach. And the reason we wanted to build Pillar was because fundamentally we believe in coaching to help you get the fitness and health results that you want to get to on your terms, you know, according to your fitness levels, your availability to train, things like that. We believe in coaching as a great way to get those outcomes. And it's a great way for you as an athlete to really feel supported. You know, when you have like the confidence that you're going to get to your goal, the confidence that you know how to get there and when you're going to get there, and really to feel motivated by your coach. You know, great coaching does all of those things. But coaching is quite expensive. And so not everybody can afford a coach, particularly in economic times like that. Yeah. And so I started Pillar to effectively democratize coaching, democratize elite coaching, because I believe that, you know, every human being is important and we all deserve the best so that we can live our best lives. And so we wanted to give everybody access to a few elite coaches' brains effectively. And so what I did was I reached out to a few of the elite coaches on the World Tour cycling circuit and the triathlon circuit, who are also professors of training and nutrition at university. So they do the work in the lab and then they take their findings to the field with the athletes. And we set about effectively replicating their brains into a set of algorithms so that Pillar, as your digital coach, can evaluate you, things like your fitness profile. So where are you strong or where are you weak? Are you more of a sprinter or do you have more of an aerobic engine, for example? Evaluate you and give you training that helps get you to your goal. But it's really about democratizing access to great quality coaching. Because it's not affordable for everybody. And also because some people see coaches as too serious. I love coaches personally, but you know, some people see having a coach as too much of a leap. And so we wanted to create a service that felt more accessible, you know, that felt like a smaller jump up. You know, you might be a cyclist who wants to improve, but you're not sure you want to coach yet. Pillar is that kind of, it plays that
platform. Yeah, but the thing is that behind the app, from what I understood, basically, let's say it's oversimplifying it, but it's a robot coaching you.
Yeah. So a set of algorithms, effectively, a lot of algorithms which replicate human thought processes. So, you know, when we think as human beings, we're evaluating the situation in front of us. If you're looking at a cyclist's fitness profile, for example, or their body composition, you're looking at that and you're making decisions about what you should recommend to them based on a number of constraints, right? So maybe this is not the case for you, Nico, as a pro athlete, but maybe there are certain days you can train, right? That's a constraint. And so then we decide, how do we best operate within the constraints of your lives, right? Because many people, I'm sure, listening to this podcast have family, a busy job. And so your cycling, your training, whatever your sport is, has to work around those constraints, because you can't leave your child, right? I know that now. I have a young daughter. I can't leave her alone, right? I don't want to either. And then when those things change, right? So maybe your child gets ill, or maybe your boss asks you to work late. So then what do? What happens in your training for the rest of the week? How should you use the time available to you? And so this is where the current solutions of, static training plans on a PDF don't work, because they can't re-optimize as your life changes. And also your physiology evolves at a unique rate, right? So we all have individual DNA, and then we all have a unique lifestyle, which means that we respond in a unique way to the stimulus that our life provides. Life provides all different types of stimulus, different types of stress, and stress is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Work stress, training stress, different types of stimulus. And so our bodies respond in a unique way. And so obviously what great coaches do is they're able to evaluate where you're at on an ongoing basis and continually re-optimize. And they're able to read you, right? They're able to say, okay, Nico, maybe you look a bit overwhelmed today. Or actually, Nico, you look the best I've seen you in a month. So let's go today. Today's the day, And so that's why we believe that, it's time to step beyond the paper training plan, the paper nutrition plan. And we believe in coaching, but we believe that coaching is not accessible to everybody. So we had to replicate those thought processes in algorithms to allow that continuous improvement and that continuous engagement. Because otherwise, people overtrain, right? They do too much training.
Totally.
They do too much high-intensity training.
Totally, and that happens to pro cyclists, to everybody, because it's super hard to evaluate on a daily basis. Let's be honest, the access to a coach who is almost 24/7 with you, it's almost inaccessible. It's not a matter of price, but it's a matter of energy, effort, let's say, even to pro athletes, and just even to coaches themselves. Sometimes they need to give a good good attention to their athletes. But when you think on someone who has 100, 150 coaches, it's just impossible, athletes under their system, it's just impossible to give the proper attention and the individuality that each of them needs. Actually, it's a very complicated process. Let's start from the beginning. I want to start using Pillar.
Yep.
How would that process work? Let's go from the scratch.
Yeah, you download the app off of the App Store or Google Play, and you go through a very quick onboarding. It's like 2 screens where you tell us your name. You then connect your wearable data. So you can see I'm wearing a Garmin and an Oura ring. So I connect those accounts to Pillar. And then what Pillar does is it sucks a lot of your data across, and all the data is held securely. It's an important thing to and there's nowadays triple layers of protection is super important. But we suck some data across, and what we do is we build your fitness profile based on that data. We do build things like your power duration curve for cycling, and then you might have a goal, right? That might be return to cycling if you've had a period away. That might be training for a specific event. Like the Etape de Tour in France, which I'm doing
next year.
Yeah, which is going to be really looking forward to it.
Man, it will be a nice one.
Yeah, it also great. And then, Pillar will say, well, look, when can you train? You can say, I can train on Tuesdays for an hour, Thursdays for an hour, Saturday for 2 hours, let's just say, around like my schedule. And then Pillar gives me effectively a first version of a training plan. And basically what it does is it optimizes your training recommendations to the amount of time you have available, your fitness level, and your goal. And it builds each session bottom up based on how much time you have to make sure you maximize the impact of that session.
But let's say one quick question here. Already from the first moment, this first training plan from myself, Nico, with the background, the input that the app took from my Garmin, from my Sigma, from my Wahoo, from my Oura, will be directly different from yours then.
Yeah, because very, very different.
We completely individualize it. Let's say, even if we have the same goals, we want to do the L'Etape, we are working on a similar job. We have both 4 days to train a week with 3 hours each day. But from the scratch, it will be already considering a different plan, considering our backgrounds in individual physiology.
Yeah, our individual fitness levels, exactly. Okay. And what we're working on building at the moment is actually currently being built, is analyzing your strengths and weaknesses as a cyclist. So this will be live in the next few weeks. So say maybe you have a massive aerobic engine. So not for you, because obviously you're a pretty good cyclist. But like maybe for me, I'm kind of stronger at the top end than my aerobic base. And
my point is the opposite. I cannot sprint against anybody. When I tell people that I don't pick 1,000 watts, they say, no, it's not possible. No, it's possible.
Yeah, no, it's possible. And so basically what we then do is we say, okay, like, what are your strengths and weaknesses? We overlay your goal, and the aim is to bridge the gap, right? What are the highest priority areas for you to develop as a cyclist to hit your goal? Maybe that's to finish an event in a certain time because you want to finish it, or maybe you want to beat a friend of yours. Then we set that end result plan. Does that make sense?
It's actually incredible that you can take all those things into consideration and that it will automatically do a training plan to myself, to you, and to every different person. And that would be obviously like translatable to any person around the world.
Yeah. I mean,
and it will be different.
Yeah, and we just take your data, right? And so it's personalized to you, to those factors we talked about. But then you get into your training, and then Pillar will evaluate your training, right? So it will give you a set of intervals to do, and then you'll do them, and then it will look at the sessions that automatically come across from your Garmin, and it will evaluate those a bit like a coach would and say, okay, how well did you do? And you can see where your points to improve are, if there are any points.
Because in the end, the training, as you said, it's something that goes day to day, and depending on daily lives, stresses, someone can respond to certain type of trainings one way, someone another way, and that has to be constantly 24, like regularly, hourly, on demand, change it and evaluate it. And that's the algorithm is also capable of doing. Let's say I do a training today, I'm not capable of completing it. And the algorithm had previewed that I would need to do, I don't know, 15 hours throughout the rest of the week. But then from that training input that I was not able to complete, and maybe the other day I will wake up with HRV that is low. It will see through for example, as you said, the Aura Wing or the Whoop data. It will be capable of automatically readjusting the rest of the week that it had pre-planned.
So it will do some readjustments at the moment. We don't take HRV data into consideration at the moment, but we will be doing in the new year. That's one of the innovations that we've got coming up. So where we'll take your HRV and we'll use that as an input into how ready you are to train. What type of training can you do today based on your readiness? But I think, we won't look at HRV in isolation, because sometimes your HRV score can be misleading. It's very popular, and some people do talk about just trusting everything to your HRV. But what the best coaches in the world do is they take your HRV into context with some other factors, things like your training load, things like how you feel subjectively. How you feel is a very good indicator of how you are. And so we need to trust ourselves and as athletes and practice checking in with ourselves to really get to know how we're doing, because that's such a good indicator of our readiness to do anything, be that go to work or be that do a hard training session. Because let's face it, you can make big improvements to your fitness and health just by getting a few basic things right? Regular training, sleeping well, plenty of low intensity training. These things, like, you can make huge impacts. And
bread and butter.
Exactly. Many
you don't go wrong.
Yeah. Many people are worried about things that there's Stephen Seiler, who's like a super well-known, super amazing kind of like
polarized training for those who don't know. Yeah.
He talks about the pyramid, the hierarchy of needs, right? And a lot of people are focused on the top of the pyramid, on things that matter a whole lot less than stuff that's at the bottom of the pyramid. And so what we're trying to do with our product is let's get the basics right, which make big impacts.
Yeah, certainly it works. Bread and butter, you cannot go wrong, as we said. You get the basics right and it goes. But it makes me wonder then, having that considered, which phase the company, I mean, we can clearly see that it is on a constant development. But right now, how ready is the app? Is it already running? Let's say, can we already try and subscribe to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Pillar is up and running. We've got some happy athletes using it and getting really great results. They're feeling fitter, they're feeling better. Actually, the latest version came out into the App Store like an hour ago before we got on air. And it's currently free, actually. And they're the last bits that we felt we needed to have before it was valuable enough to command a subscription effectively. So and look, we're really the key message that I want to communicate to people is tell us what you need and we'll build it. And tell us how you need it and we'll build it for you. I think everybody leads busy lives. They've got responsibilities. We want to make being fit and healthy as easy as possible, knowing that doing the work requires commitment. Doing the training requires commitment. Eating, as well as you want to eat requires commitment. And so actually all of the things around knowing what to do, knowing where you're at, we want to make that as easy as possible for people. That's the coach's job. That's Pillar's job.
Yeah, that's pretty curious. We were saying offline, right? People who are capable of solving other people's problem are usually the people who really build something successful in life. That being said, then, I think one question is, what is your view then on the future of training? Let's say already looking a little bit a few years ahead. We see plenty of new wearables, new technology coming in. You are a great example of it. But where do you think in 10 years we're going to sit down for these conversations? How are we going to be seeing training physiology and general exercise training world?
A very interesting question. I think there are multiple aspects to this, but I think one aspect that we can probably all agree on is more personalization. So whether that's taking things like HRV, so we know your status today and what you're capable of today, there'll be some of that. I think there'll be more personalization on the personality and psychological profile level of the athlete as well, to make sure that your great friends, the reason they're your great friends, usually part of the reason is because they know how to act in your presence, right? What type of style, what I call the form and the content, right? The form of the interaction and the content of what they say, what they ask of you. I think there's going to be some more personalization in that regard for coaching. And I also think seeing the body as a connected system, this is what we're all about at Pillar. And that's why I called the company Pillar, because of the different pillars of your fitness and health: exercise, nutrition, rest, musculoskeletal health, and mental fitness, as we call it. The reality is that your body is a connected system, and there needs to be some degree of balance between what you do with these different pillars and inputs, right? If you train and don't eat, you're going to come up injured and ill. If you overeat and don't train, you're going to wind up being a bit bigger. If you train and don't rest, you're going to wind up injured, right? Because when your body adapts, as you know well, is during that rest period, your body actually changes and gets fitter when you're resting. And so we do believe in of enabling as much synchronicity as the athlete desires between these different pillars. And that's what we're all about. And that's why, we'll be working on various different pillars of fitness and health and bringing those into the coaching experience for the athlete, not only training, but nutrition.
The nicest thing about human physiology and training in general is that it's a never-ending improvement curve. We can, you can always learn something. You can always be a bit better. And it's like, man, I don't see the human body is such an incredible engineered machine, but we still know so little about it. There's endless hours that we can sit down and be talking about it. It's quite amazing when you think about it, right?
Agree.
But that's super, Dan. I would like to thank you again, and on name of all the Gregario podcast listeners, it has been amazing having you on board, talking a little bit to us, introducing us to the Pillar app, a new technology. I hope to have you many more times here on board talking about evolution and how it is growing. And it would be a pleasure to receive you, maybe you one day here in person in Brazil. I'm sure listeners would love to.
Yeah, no, hey, look, thanks so much. Love to chat about this, and thank you for having me, Nico. It's been a real pleasure, and definitely one time in Brazil. And also, I would say to anybody who's interested, reach out, right? So our website, I don't know if our website is www.pillar-app.com. My email is dan@pillar-app.com. And people, if anyone's got any questions, wants to hear more, wants some help, building the company to help people. So please do reach out.
We will also tag Pillar in Instagram. We're going to put in the description of this podcast so you can listen, reach out to Dan. I'm sure he will be happy to help you and receive that feedback. And para você que escutou aqui, espero que você tenha gostado desse conteúdo, um pouco mais profundo aí na tecnologia do treinamento. Como eu falei, quem quiser entrar em contato com o Dan, ficam os contatos aqui na descrição do podcast. Ele está marcado também no Instagram. E, por favor, comentem e valeu! Até a próxima, então.